Yerushalmi was able to contain all the Jews with plenty of room to spare for each one to sleep in. A higher degree of Kedusha was the Azora, the yard in the base of Mikdash, which is so tiny, it's just a few 100 feet. And in this yard, all the Jews had to assemble. And then when they heard the voice of the Kohen Gadol pronouncing the name of Hashem, they all bowed. And they were standing pressed close to each other. When it came time to bow, they suddenly found 6 feet of space where they could each bow down. In this tiny yard, it was a neat machzorah, a little bit of space that contained such a vast multitude of people, and yet enough space for each one to bow. Greater than that was the room of the Kodesh Kodeshim, and still higher was the order itself. It got to a point that was above the conception of space entirely. The order itself fit into the Kodesh Kodeshim into no space at all, because it contained 20 feet. The width was 20 feet. The kiruvim, the 2 figures of the angels, took up exactly 20 feet. Exactly between these kiruvim stood the Oren Kodesh itself. The Gemara says, Oren Einam Namida. The Oren was not included in space, measurement of the room, because it was between these 2 kiruvim, and there was no space at all, which means that it was above the concept of space. There's this is above the conception of space. These all are included in the words Miyat Machzik Esamanullah. A little contains a lot. A little bit space contains much more than the space itself. You can put, let's say, an item of 50 feet width into an article of 5 feet width. That's impossible. But this is the union of Miyat Machzik, which is above the laws of space. And the highest degree, of course, is the case of ayin, where it's not governed by space whatsoever. Zero space, and yet it exists. This is what these Chachamim were boasting about. The first one said, each one boasted about his power of Miyat Machzik. The first ones, one of them, they were laughing and joking. And of the rest of them that boasted, their words were accepted. In other words, one of them boasted about it, and him they made a big joke. The rest of them boasted, they accepted their words, they admired them. But my degree of Miyat Machzik was greater than all of them. This the hunchback Bedla said. It's one of them, the first one, boasted that his mind is a bechina of Miyat Machzik. His mind is small, the brain is small, and yet it contains a lot. Because in his mind, he carries thousands, tens of thousands of people, and all their needs, everything that's necessary about them, all their movements, whatever there is about them, he carries in his mind. He can think, in his mind he knows all these people and everything they need. And therefore, his mind is Miyat Machzik, because his mind carries all these people. They all laughed at him. They said that the people he carries in his mind are nothing, and he is nothing. And one of them said, I saw a Miyat Machzik just like this case of this man said. They were laughing at. To show you emotional how foolish his example was, he said, I saw something just like it. One time I saw a mountain, and on this mountain it was piled up mountains of waste matter, excretion. There was a big chiddush to me, where did all this waste come from? And there was one man there standing next to the mountain. He said, all this came from me. Because this man was sitting next to the mountain. He always kept on throwing this waste matter on the mountain, and the food that he ate, and continually he threw this waste there until through him this increased such a point on top of the mountain that it fell on the mountain of itself. That means that this person too is a Miyat Machzik because he is so small, and to him there's so much waste. And this is the same case with you. They said to this first Chacham, yours too. The people you speak about in your mind is just like this man with all that waste matter. It's worth nothing. Then the others spoke. One boasted that he is meat masur because he has a parcel of land which produces a lot of fruit. And then when they figure out the amount of fruit produced from this land, they see that there is much more fruit than the area of the land itself. There isn't enough space in this little lot to carry all the fruit that this land produces. That means this land produces more than itself. So this pleased them, because this truly is a case of meat machzor. Next one said he has a marvelous garden, beautiful garden that has a lot of beautiful fruit. And people come to this garden from all over. Important visitors, dignitaries come to visit the beauty of this garden. In the summertime especially, many people come from all over to walk in this garden. Yemes, this garden is not enough to hold so many people. And therefore, this garden is meat masur, because the people that visit the garden are much more than the area of the garden itself. This too, in a delicate sense, is meat masur. This pleased them too. One of them said that his speech, his power of speech, is meat masur, because he is a secretary for a great king. Many people come to him. This one comes to him with praises for the king. This one comes to him with requests for the king, and so forth. And of course, it's impossible for the king to hear what everyone has to say. And he said, I could take all their words, that they tell me everything, and put it into a few words, in a capsule form, and tell the king everything that they said. And yet, in my few words, everything that they said will be confined and powered in these few words. So that this is definitely a case of my power of speech is such that I can confine a lot of words into a little. The next one said, my power of speech is meat masur, because there are a lot of mekatigim, lashon hara, that speak badly about him, and the more they speak badly about him, they speak against him with malshinas and bilbulim and false accusations. With my silence alone, the fact that I am silent, I answer all these questions. I answer everything. There's one single act of silence in his power. Without answering, that itself is a penance for all their evil talk. That means that his power of silence is meat masur. One of them said that he is meat masur because there's a poor man and he's blind. And he's very great. This person who was boasting this was very small person. He said, I lead this blind man. He was very great. He's big person, and I'm very small. And I lead this blind man who's very big. So that means that he's meat masur because the blind man is so big he could fall, he could slip, and this small person leads him and helps him. This is a case of meat masur. So then the hunchback spoke up and he said, I was also there. And I said, the truth is that all of you do have a bechina meat masur, but I know everything that you meant. You come on us when you said these things. I know what you meant when you said these. You hinted at certain things. This last one who boasted that he is this cotton who leads this blind ani, he is greater than all of you. But I am greater than every one of you combined. Because this cotton who leads this big blind one, his kavanah is that he leads the cycle of the moon. The moon is considered blind. It has no light. Saginah has no light of its own. Can't see whatsoever. And this last chacham has the power of leading this moon around in its orbit. Therefore, he is a meat masur, because upon him depends the world. The world must have the moon. The existence of the world depends upon the moon. So he is meat masur b'yemes. But my power of the Masunaba is greater than all of them in general. And proof is, at one time, there was a group of Mechakim, deep thinkers, and everyone thought about this point that each person has a shadow. And each person wants to lie in this shadow, his own shadow, to protect himself against the light. So too there's a shadow for not just each person, but for each animal. Each animal chooses a certain shadow that it likes to lie in. Now, that means it's not its own shadow. It has a shadow of something that prefers to lie in that shadow. And two, each bird has a certain branch that it prefers to stay in, to rest in. So we have people who like to rest in shadow, animals like to rest in shadow, and birds that like to nestle on branches. So these mechakim, these deep thinkers, began to think, is there an existence, a tree, that is so great where in its shadow there can rest all the living things on earth? They'll all be satisfied, willing to live in that shadow, and whose branches all the birds of the heavens will be able to rest on. And they delved into it until they found that there is such a tree. They wanted to go to that tree because the pleasure, the extreme pleasure that can be found in that tree is immeasurable, indescribable. Because there you have all the birds and all the animals in the world, and yet there's something so special about it that there's no harm done to anyone. They live in peace there. Despite the fact that they mingle together with each other, they play together, there's no enmity, no harm done to each other, and the tremendous pleasure that's there is one that's incomparable. So they began to delve into this thought, which direction they must take to come to that tree. And an argument broke out among them. They couldn't decide. One said they have to go to the east, one said to the west, one said to the south, one said to the north, until they couldn't decide at all in which direction to go to come to that tree. So one Chacham came and said to them, why do you think about which direction to go to the tree? Why do you delve into that first? Why don't you first find out which people are fit to come to that tree? Because in that tree, not every person is able to arrive at, except that person who has all the midas, the qualities of that tree. A special holy tree, it's the Elon Adav, the great tree, which has certain qualities, midas, and a person cannot get there unless he has these qualities of that tree. Because that tree has three roots. First root is Amunah, faith, pure faith. Second root is Yira, fear of Hashem. The third root is Anivus, modesty. That's the roots of the three roots of the tree. The trunk of the tree itself is emes. From this emes come forth all the branches. And therefore it is not possible to get to that tree unless a person possesses the qualities, midas of this tree itself. Now, this group was very closely knit, and they felt that it's not right that they should have to select from among themselves. Some will have these qualities, the rest should stay behind. They had such a powerful degree of achdus, they wanted to be together. They should all go to that tree and not be separated. So they couldn't bear to have some go and some not to go. Since they were not fit to go to there because none of them possessed these midas. So they decided that they'll wait there and they'll all strive to perfect themselves and correct their midas. They'll all have the midas of Emunah, Yira, Anivus, and Emes. They did that until they perfected it, and they worked very hard. They struggled until everyone arrived to achieve these midas. The moment they got to these midas, all of them, they suddenly all decided together exactly in which direction to go to that tree. What kept them away from that direction was the fact that they weren't united in these midas. Once they achieved these midas, so they realized that they had one mind, they knew exactly which way to go. And they went there, they all came It took them some time till they arrived at the little distance from the tree, where they could see the tree. They looked and they saw that the tree is not standing on anything concrete. The tree is no place. It takes up no place at all. There was no mokum for the tree itself. Now, since the tree is not in a place, how can you get to something which doesn't take up any place? How can you get there? And this Betless said, I was there too. And I said to them, I can bring you to that tree. Because that tree has no mokum at all. Why? Because that tree is lamala mokum. It's not just meat maksamanuma. It's above this concept of space completely. And I have this power. Mine is meat maksamanuma above lamala mokum. So therefore, I can bring you to that tree. Because he said, my Mechina is at the end of this union of Mokum, where space ends, that's what I am. Which means that I stand right in the middle between space and between no space, above space, on the middle point. Being right in the middle, I could transfer one from one place to the other, on the transferring point. Therefore, you can carry them over there. I took them, I carried them to the tree, and they saw that I had the power to do it. Then, this proves I have a haskama from this group that my Bechina, Meat Nasanu, is greater than any other person's. Therefore, I appear like one who is hunched, because I carry on myself everything and everyone. From the Meat Nasanu, I carry everything myself. Now, this power I give to you as a complete gift. You should be just like me. A very great, high degree of tremendous simcha arose. They were happy there all day. On the sixth day, again, they were very happy. They yearned how to get the betla without hands. The yearning was very strong, and suddenly he came and said, Hineni, I came to you in the Chassidut. And he said to them also, as the others said, he kissed them, and he said to them, you think that I am a cripple without hands? I am not a balmum at all. I'm not deficient in my hands whatsoever. The truth is that I have tremendous power in my hands, but I do not use the power of my hands for anything in this world. I must use my power for something else. And I have a haskama from a tower, fortress of water, a watery fortress. There's one time there were certain people sitting together. Each one boasted about the power he has in his hands. One boasted he has the power, this type of power, the other this kind of power. Each one a different type of power in his hands. One of them boasted he had the power in his hands that he could shoot an arrow, and after shooting it, he could return the arrow to himself in flight. And before the arrow lands, he can return the arrow to himself. So this Betless said, I was there, and I asked him, what kind of an arrow can you return? You bring back. There are 10 types of arrows, because there are 10 types of poisons. Meaning, when a person wants to shoot an arrow, he usually smears some poison, a certain type of poison, on the arrow. Since there are 10 types of poison that he used to smear the arrow with, each type of poison does a different type of harm. And when they smear it with one, it does one kind of harm. 2, it does more harm. So these 10, one is worse than the other, more harmful than the other. And this is what's meant by the 10 types of arrows, because each arrow is a different type of poison. Because of the fact that there are 10 types of poisons, we don't call them 10 types of poison, we call them 10 types of arrows. And therefore, I asked him, which type of arrow can you bring back? I also asked him, could you bring back the arrow before it reached its mark? Or could you bring it back even after it reaches mark? And he answered, I could return the arrow even after it reaches mark. You still return it. But you asked which kind of arrow? One kind. Only one certain kind. So I said to him, this Bethel without hands said, I said to him, if so, you cannot cure the princess, the queen, Basmalka, queen's daughter. Since you cannot return more than one single kind of arrow, you cannot cure this princess. The next one boasted he has a power in his hands that from whomsoever he takes and receives from him, he actually gives him. By taking, he is giving. Special power in the hands. The Mela, that's a Baal Stucker. Because Stucker, the posek of Yikuli Truma, Hashem says, Yikuli Truma. You should take to me Truma. It doesn't say give me, it says take to me, because by giving Stucker, you're actually receiving. So, I asked this Bethel Stucker, I asked this Chacham, what kind of Stucker do you give? Because there are 10 kinds of Stucker. So he answered, he gives Meiser. So I said to him, in that case, you cannot cure the Basmalka because you cannot reach where she is. You cannot enter, you can only enter into one fortress, one wall, that is, where she is, and you have to go through 10 walls, and therefore you cannot reach the place where she is. You cannot help to cure her. The third one boasted he has a power in his hands, because there are certain officials appointed all over the world, each one has a certain wisdom. He has a power in his hands that through his hands he gives them this chachma. It's like smicha. Smicha means you put your hands in the person, you give him smicha. So it says he gives them this chachma. So I asked this chacham, what kind of chachma do you give with your hands? Because there are asore kabel chachma, 10 measures chachma came to the world. He said, a certain kind of chachma. I said to him, in that case, you cannot cure the Basmalka because you do not know the pulse beat. Because you know only one pulse beat, and there are actually 10 types of pulse beats, which you brought me, Tikuney Zohar. Since you know only one type of pulse beat, you cannot cure her. In order to cure, you have to know 10 types of pulse beat. Fourth one boasted he has a power in his hands that when there is a storm wind comes up, he can put his hand up and stop a storm wind. In other words, he can change a storm wind, block it to become a regular breeze. So I asked him, what kind of a wind can you hold back with your hands? Of course, there are 10 kinds of winds. So he answered, just the ruach, playing a certain kind. So I said to him, in that case, then you cannot cure the princess because you cannot play more than one nigun. There are 10 kinds of nagina, and the nagina is the cure, the main cure. Since you cannot play more than one kind of nigun, these 10, so you cannot cure her. The nigunim come from the ruach. The wind instruments, they all go by wind, and the air is what causes sound of nagina. Since you know only one kind of ruach, you have to know the 10 types of winds. You have only one kayach nagina, not more than that, you cannot cure her. These were the 4 types of chacham. So they said, what can you do? They asked the Spetler, without hands. He answered, I can do whatever you can do, and I can do whatever you can't do. Which means the 9 parts that every one of you is lacking, that you cannot do, that I can do all of it. Notice there are 4 and 10. Arizal shows that the entire Yesod of Kabbalah is included in this one single story. Because everything is divided into 4 in Kabbalah. The 4 letters of Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and the 4 types of Shemesh of Sag Mabon, and the 4 Yesodus, Eish, Ruach, Mayim, Ofar, the elements this world is created of, and the 4 types of creation, Benet, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, and every one is based on the 10 spheres. Each one has the 10 levels of spheres in it. So these 4 elements, the Tzilus, B'niyah, Yitzir, and Asiyah, everyone has these 10 spheres to them. The tzadik emes is a baki in all these shemes of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the tzuruf shemes, and he's a baki in all these spheres. With this koyach of kedusha that he had, he could reach to the highest one of the spheres. And all the elements, with this, he has the power of curing the Bas Melech, princess, which means the Shechina, which is in Golos, and the Shechina, which is suffering, bleeding, the Dam Shechina, the blood of the Shechina is suffering and bleeding from this Golos, from the arrows of poison that are shot into the Shechina through the Goyim, the acts of the Goyim against the Jews, and through the Avenis, the Chatoim, that caused the blood to come to the Shechina. And this is what the tzadik is Isaac in his whole life was dedicated, devoted to curing the Shechina, the Dam Shechina, which eventually, when cured, will bring the Shechina back to perfection and back to Bala, the Shechina back to Bala, B'Chibricha. So this Betla said that there's a story behind this. One time, a certain king desired a princess. And he tried a lot of means and tricks to capture her, until he finally succeeded in capturing her. One time the king had a dream, and he dreamt that she got up and killed him. He woke up from his dream, and he took this dream to heart. They called all his interpreters to interpret the dream. Each one interpreted meaning just as the dream says, that she is going to kill him. The king couldn't find any solution for this, what to do to her. If he kills her, it would hurt him very much. Why should he lose her? He worked so hard to capture her. To send her away from him, the thought angered him, because somebody else would take her. This he couldn't stand. Somebody else should have her after he tried so hard to get her. Now he should get her, and somebody else should have her. And if he sends her away, she'll get to somebody else. Then surely it's possible the deed should come true. She'll come back and kill him, since she's with somebody else. So he was very much afraid of this dream to do. And meanwhile, because of this dream, because of his fears, because of his worries, slowly his ahava to her began to decline. To a great degree, little by little, became worse and worse. And in turn, her ahava to him too became spoiled, little that she had, until she developed a very deep sinner to him, and she fled. The king sent after her to look for her. And they told the king that she was located by a fortress of water. Because there is such a thing as a fortress made of water. And there are 10 gates or walls, one inside the other. All these 10 walls are made of water. And the ground beneath them is also made of water. Also, there are trees and fruit growing there, all made of water. Understood? The beauty of this fortress, the chiddush, tremendous chiddush, the usual marvel of it, is impossible to describe. Certainly it's a chiddush that there should be a thing like a fortress made of water, a watery fortress. To go into this fortress is impossible, because the person trying to go in would drown. Anybody trying to go inside of this fortress is made of pure water. So the princess, when she fled, came to this fortress. She walked around this fortress of water, trying to find her way in. They told the king that she was going around this fortress. The king sent an army after to capture her, and when she saw this, she decided that she would run into the fortress of water, because she would much rather drown than to be captured by the king and to have to be with him. Also, perhaps by some means, she might be able to be saved and enter into this fortress of water. The king saw that she was running into the water. He said, since that's the case, therefore, shoot her. And if she dies, let her die. So they shot after her, and all these 10 types of arrows that were anointed, smeared with these 10 types of poison, struck her. And with these 10 arrows in her, she fled inside the fortress. She went through the 10 gates of these walls of water, because there are gates in these walls. She went through all of them. She went into inside the 10th gate of this fortress. She came to the very inner depth, and there she fell in a faint. This is the story of the princess. And the 6th Bethlehem, without hands, said, and I am curing her. And this is the famous words of Rabbi Arizal, and I am curing her. because he who does not have the 10 types of stuckus cannot go into these 10 walls of water. He'll surely drown. He has the power of the 10 stuckus, he can get inside. The king and his army have chased after her, went inside, and he drowned. But I can go inside these 10 walls of water, and these walls of water, they are the waves that stand like a wall. The winds that hold up these walls and raise them, these 10 stand there always. But these winds that raise and hold up these waves, I can enter through in these 10 walls, and I can draw from the princess the 10 different types of arrows, because I know the 10 types of pulses that are necessary with the 10 fingers, because each finger has a different pulse, and I can cure her through the 10 kinds of Nagina. 10 kinds of Nagina, that's the discovery that no tzadik ever was able to reach except the Arizal. The Gemara says that the Sefer Tehillim is composed of Yud Min Nagina, which means that 10 chapters of Tikuney Zohar, complete general tikkun for the bas milk. And therefore I cure her. So we see that I have power, this power in my hands. This power I give to you as a gift. So there was a very, very great, happy simcha that took place. The Menachem said this story is very difficult for me to tell, but since I started it, I'm forced to finish it. In this story, there's not one single word that doesn't have a deep kavanah. He who is lucky in Sfarim, Sifrei Kabbalah, could understand slightly the hints at it. The yin of the arrows, the story, the one who had power in his hands to withdraw the arrows. This is the you of the posek says that Techad Mishpat Yodi. The Gashi Kodesh says that on this posek that a human being throws an arrow, he can't bring it back. Hashem throws an arrow, he can return it. The yin of Stucca, which represents the waves of water, because Stucca is called like waves of water, and the winds, which, like Hashem, it says by Hashem, who can hold wind in his hands. About Hashem it says, so you have the 10 kinds of Nagina, the 10 basics, 10 pulses. This is explained already, put them on. But the Nosson also says, who knows, who can tell, who can understand anything about the actual depth of this story, because the story is extremely deep. Who knows what each item stands for. The end of the story, meaning the 7th day, 7th Betla without feet, and also the end of the beginning of the story about the king who handed over the kingdom to his son, we were not zeichet to hear. The Menachem said he will not tell it anymore. And this is a tremendous loss, because we will not be zeichet to hear it again until Mashiach will come. Menachem also said, if I knew nothing else but this one story, it'll be also the greatest chiddush possible. Because this Maaseh is a very, very great chiddush. There's a lot of Musar in it, a lot of Taita in it. There are many Taitas in it. It speaks about many very great tzaddikim, Kadmonim, Shalom. Others, this reaction of the Arizal Fedish, and other details that are completely hidden from our minds. Ashrei, to him who is zecher, the person who is zecher, to be masig some of the secrets of this story. Baruch Hashem. Story of the 7th Betla, and the beginning of the story, which is not completed here. Bir Likutim mentions as a remez what he feels is what is directed at. The 7th Betla without feet, the Arizal says many times that the black lion, the regel, stands for Emunah. The Emunah there, the Ragla, and Chavruta bin Halachas, Chavruta came into the whole Torah, stands on one foot. That's tzadik Emunah Yichya. Tzadik lives with Emunah. So feet stand for Emunah. Now, in other words, the 7th Betla came, who had the power of Emunah, came in the Sake and the lack of Emunah. The beginning of the story speaks about the Ben Melech, who lacked, who fell down, Yerida in Emunah, fell to be curses. He required the greatest tikkun of all the tikkunim of all, the last, most powerful Betla of Emunah. So the 6th and 7th Betla worked in coordination with each other to bring about the biggest, the highest yichud possible. 6th one to cure the Bas Malka by the son of Nagina, and the 7th Betla to inject the koyach of Emunah into the Ben Melech. When both the Ben Melech would have this perfection of Emunah, and the Bas Melech would have the refuah, then these two would be combined, would become united. You'd have the highest possible yichudus, the Tikuney Ha'elam, the Chlal, highest tikkun possible. And that the Beit Hillel says when Mashiach will come, will hear this, will be zeichet to see this final tikkun and pay the Bimenu. Amen.